Welcome friends, welcome back to the kitchen. We're going to continue our exploration of dry cured whole muscle. Today I've got this piece of pork tenderloin. Wasn't really marked correctly at the grocery store. So the only thing you really need to worry about is it's a whole muscle and it's very lean. That's what we're looking for. And so I'm not going to do a recipe that conforms to any sort of tradition today. I'm just going to, I'm going to follow my heart. I'm going to do something that I think might work. The only thing you really need to worry about is the weight of the meat, and then tailor the weight of your salt and the Instacure number 2 or Prog powder number 2 to match the weight of the meat. This gives us an equilibrium cure or a measured cure. Make sure that the meat is safe, but it also makes sure that the meat doesn't become too salty. And then on top of that, we just layer a flavor. And so I have our rib and chicken rub. This is something that I really love putting on ribs for the smoker, the barbecue. I put this on chicken. I've made this a few times on the channel, so I will link the videos where I made it down below. I will also put the ingredient list down below. It smells heavenly. So I've measured out a certain amount of that, and we're going to mix this together and then rub it on the pork. And because this is a measured dry cure or an equilibrium dry cure, you want to use all of the cure. And you want to get it into every little bit of this piece of pork. So anywhere where you see there's a divot, make sure you get it in there. If there's some cuts where maybe the butcher didn't do such a great job, you want to get it in there as well. I've also pulled off some silver skin, and those are my mistakes. So I want to make sure it's in all of those cracks too. Get it everywhere. Now I've got a vacuum sealer, so I'm going to use a vacuum seal bag. You could put this into a Ziploc. Just put it in the Ziploc and get as much air out as you possibly can. So I'm going to slip that in. Now, there's some rub left in the bottom of this tray, or cure left in the bottom of this tray. I want to get all of that in as well. It all has to go in. Now, make sure you write on the bag what it is and the date, so that when it's in your fridge, you remember what it is, especially if you're doing 2 or 3 at the same time. So, rib rub, and put down the date. Now, I'm going to stick this in the fridge. This size of muscle really only takes 3 days, 4 days maybe at most to cure. I'm going to leave it in for probably 7 or 8 days. And each day I'm going to take it out, I'm going to give it a little bit of a massage, I'm going to stick it back in, turn it over, flip it around, make sure that the cure is everywhere and it's all wet. There's no chance of this becoming over salted or over cured because we weighed the salt and based that weight on the weight of the muscle. So it's going to be perfectly cured. I'm going to leave it a little bit longer because I really want those flavors to develop into the pork. So into the fridge it goes, and I'll see you in about a week. A week has gone by, and it's looking good. So let's get it out of the package. The next step in a lot of instructions is to take this and rinse off the spicing on the outside. And I'm kind of on the fence about that. I don't need to rinse off any salt because of the brining method that we used, or the curing method that we used. I'm not worried about this being overly salty. And so the idea is that you're supposed to rinse off what's on the outside to get rid of some of that salt, but also to take away the spices because the spices have already done their job. And I'm thinking I'm just going to leave them on because what will it hurt? I guess we'll find out. Next up, I need a piece of beef bung or beef cap, and I have beef cap. Now this is only part of a beef cap. These pieces are fairly small and fairly short, and a beef cap is quite long. So I already used half of this on another piece of meat, and it's got a little bit of black pepper in it, which I think is going to be fine, because I don't think the black pepper that's left in this is going to harm the cure that we're doing. So I need to slip this inside, and it's still too long. So slip it in about halfway, and then we're going to start tying it off. Now, I've got a little bit of rib rub here that we used at the beginning. If I felt that this needed more, I could sprinkle more on the outside at this point. I don't think it needs it, so I'm not going to. If you think it needs it, go right ahead. Put some on the outside. So, let's tie this up. Let's start at this end. And I'm just going to do a super simple knot. I'm not going to get too extravagant here. Okay, so I've got this tied at both ends, and I tied a bubble knot at each end. So I tied it tight and then folded over a flap, tied it again, and I'm just going to trim off what's left of the beef cap. Don't need that hanging around. Now I'm going to put it into some jet net just to help it keep its shape. And this stuff is horrible to work with if you don't have the little funnel that helps you push the piece of meat through. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle for me to get this on, but I didn't have the extra 20 bucks for each size of funnel that I would need to make this happen. So lesson learned, buy the funnel. Now that I've got the jet net on, I'm still going to tie this. So a simple knot down here at the bottom, just around the jet net and the cap. Then, what's the best way? I'm going to go this, so I've made a loop, and I bring that over the end, and then tighten it. Then I make the same loop again, and I bring it farther back this time, maybe an inch or two, and then I do the same thing. You tighten it. And you just keep going right along until you get to the other end. And now I'll make out a label of what it is, the date, and what it weighs at the beginning. One last thing, I almost forgot. You need to poke holes in to let out any of the air bubbles. And so just poke them wherever you see an air bubble, and in a couple of other places where you think air might be, like right here at the end in these knots. Definitely air trapped inside those knots, and you don't want that. Now I've got this dry ager set up on a cycle that is specifically for dry curing charcuterie, which is different than the cycle for dry aging meat. I've also got the temperature set to 12.5 degrees Celsius and 80% humidity, although it's a little bit different right now because I've been opening and closing the door all day. So I'm going to hang this in here. I'm going to make sure that it's not touching anything else. And I'm going to keep checking on the weight. When it loses 30% of its weight, I'm going to pull it out. Now, after 2 weeks down in the dry ager, this has lost about 35% of its weight in water. I didn't get as much of the white mold on the outside as I had hoped for, but it still feels really nice and firm. I think this is going to be great. So, now what I need to do is cut off all the string and the jet net from around the outside. Okay. Let's see if we can pull all this off. So that pulls off fairly easily. Next thing I'm going to do is pull off the casing. I've done this once before. I pulled the casing off, and that was definitely the way to go. There are people who say to leave it on and to eat it. It is fully edible. There's absolutely nothing wrong with leaving it on, but I'm going to pull it off. So the trick is just to get up underneath it a little bit, and then it pulls right off. And it just pulls right off. It's really easy. Look at that. Now, Do we cut this open? We do. Let's see. Look at that color. Texture's really good. Smells fantastic. Okay, so let's slice some up and make some sandwiches.
Hi, Glenn.
Hey, Jules.
Hi, friends. Is this another one of the creations from the dryager in the basement?
It is. So this is our rib and chicken spice rub.
Okay, little reuse
I just went freeform and
in the Glen way.
yeah, and let's see what happens. So off the top, it looks
Looks
pretty good.
good.
Yeah. It's got good color. I like that.
It's really good, and I have to say, I'm not sure I've ever had something that tastes quite like that.
No.
Which makes it super fun.
I like that.
It's got a bit of a bite to it.
Yeah. And there's a lot of this rub is layers of flavor, and so you're getting layers of that flavor in. This is going to make an amazing sandwich.
It's going to be an amazing sandwich. Glenn's doing his happy dance.
Okay. So find the recipe for our rib and chicken rub. Rub it on some pork tenderloin. Wrap it in a beef bung. Hang it in your basement for 2 weeks. Make yourself a sandwich.
That's a lot of steps.
Thanks for stopping by. See you again soon.